You have just tuned in for the latest transmission of Stranger Than Fiction. And joining me as today's very special guest is Kimberly Goguen, who some may know as Kim Possible. But before we get into it, if this just happens to be your first time ever watching any of my videos, I do encourage you to explore my channel. Make sure you're subscribed, smash that like button, and hit that notification bell so you can stay up to date with my videos as they come out. I encourage everyone to check out my Patreon channel where I post up exclusive content. You get early access to videos. I'm doing monthly giveaways for patrons only, and most importantly, it's a way to support the channel directly. Be sure to follow my sister channel on Library where I post up extra content. Check out my audio podcast, Rice Radio, that is hosted on anchor.fm. It's available on every major podcasting platform at Rice Radio, and new episodes are coming weekly. And if you haven't heard, I recently partnered up with Money Metals Exchange. You can get a free half ounce of silver if you visit moneymetals.com. You're a first-time buyer, you purchase $100 or more, and you use the promo code RICE, R-I-C-E, you'll get a free half ounce of silver, and it's another way to support the channel as well. I'm going to have links down below for everything I just mentioned, as well as everything we talk about on today's show. All right, ladies and gentlemen, as I mentioned at the very beginning of the video, joining me today is Kim Goguen, aka Kim Possible, and this is a conversation that I have been looking forward to very much. So Kim, I appreciate you accepting the invitation to come on the show. How are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing excellent. And again, like I said, I'm really looking forward to this discussion and getting to know you. And normally when I introduce people, I kind of try my best to give a little bit of a background on people. And aside from the fact that you've been involved in finances and banking most of your life, the rest is kind of a little bit hard for me to explain. So in your words, who is Kimberly Goguen?
As a person or in this job?
As a person, and then ultimately like what your role is right now.
Okay. As a person, in brief, I grew up in a pretty bad neighborhood and what you would call in the States, the projects, right? And I worked my way out of there and into college for architecture. So my university degree is in architecture, not in banking, but I worked for a bank throughout college and I started really liking banking. So I continued on in the banking world. And I've bought and sold 3 of my own companies. You know, it's not like I was not living a happy life before all this happened. Then a drastic change. I had a daughter. I have a daughter.
Okay.
A drastic change happened in 2007, which was the beginning of the end for the markets with the global market crash.
Yeah.
And behind the scenes, what happened in 2007 is the elite were cut off from the back system. So all sides of all covens, all of them were completely and totally cut off in one day. It was in March of 2007. After that, I was being hunted down pretty much like a dog from there on out because apparently they all knew something I didn't at the time. I mean, I was living a normal, you know, upper middle class life, you know, cars, nice house, child, single parent, and my own company. You know, I had no idea that what this whole thing was all about at that time.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, so what happened in 2007, ultimately you got introduced to a completely different world that took you down a very unique path that you probably wouldn't have chosen normally. And for anybody who's watching this, who's not familiar, I'm going to have links down below for Speak Project's website, which has a section on Kim Possible that you could check out to get a little bit more information as well, which we'll dig into. And I'll have information for Life Force as well. I'm getting some information about you having your DNA being somewhat a 99.8% match to the mitochondrial Eve, which would be the one female that everybody can say that we're related to. And you're 99.8% matched to that individual, that mitochondrial Eve. Not saying the Adam and Eve, but the mitochondrial DNA species that we have come upon. And Tank called you kind of an ambassador to humanity. Some people, you throw around the term savior.
No.
I know you don't like the term. I know you don't. But it's something about your DNA that you were selected to be an ambassador representative of humanity of some sorts. This is why I was trying to ask you, in your words, who are you? Because I don't even know how to even put this out.
Well, in the past, I've been told a lot of things. So there's things that I'm very logical. So I have to touch something. I have to see it. I have to have proof, right? Of what somebody's telling me, because I've been told so many lies throughout this whole process, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, but it's true. So, and then I dig and dig and dig and find either a truth or the truth, right? With proof, because I don't do anything without it. I have to have it. So, as far as the DNA is concerned, I mean, I've known since I was a little kid, I have kind of abnormal skills and abnormal things that happen. Is that mean anything? I mean, I guess I thought everybody can do this, and I guess they can, Riley. You know, if we weren't, being poisoned all the time and all of that, it was defined to me as closest to the source, so the source of humanity. But as far as a computer system is concerned, right, an AI system, a thinking system, it would say, okay, see, the only override in the past for the predecessors was if over a certain percentage of humanity, all humans walking the earth, agreed on something. It's called like collective conscious. You see that a lot, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that would have overridden the evil ones that were running it before.
Okay.
Right? A computer is only as evil as the person who's running it. Sorry.
It's a tool.
True. Okay, it's a tool. And it can be used for good and it can be used for harm. So when I guess was told I had this job or this position, it came down to, as far as the system part is concerned, that I was like the outlier, the overrider. So 99.8 and all in one person becomes the default over 99.8% of humanity, all agreeing.
So
does that make sense?
It does. And so is this system though connected now with your DNA as like a login, or does it recognize you by your DNA sequence, or is there some other way that it recognizes you?
Well, it did by DNA sequence, right? So as an example, 10 years ago or 15 years ago, our cell phones maybe had a password, right? We really didn't see a lot of smartphones, until maybe a few years after that. And so now we have smartphones that have had fingerprints after that, right? Now we also have smartphones that have facial recognition as your login.
Yeah.
As an example. Well, this takes that to a whole nother level. So it's a DNA marker, right? So it looks for several points, and that way there's no hacking possible. So in other words, the other thing is that then when everybody kind of found out who I was, then it was like, let's kidnap Kim, right? That happened for a number of years.
I'm not laughing to laugh. I mean, I was curious. One of my questions was, why hasn't somebody tried taking you out if you are who you claim to be?
Oh, a lot. I've been poisoned 3 times. I've got all kinds of scars. I've been in lots of fights and stuff throughout the world. This is not abnormal. I've been many, many, many places with and without passports, but I've got scars to prove it.
I believe you. No.
But
sorry,
to answer your question, I had to add in a feature that allowed the system to read brain waves as well. So if I'm under duress, it won't let me log in. So it's not just DNA. Otherwise, someone would have cut off some body part of mine. It also is temperature. It has a lot. It reads a lot of different points, and it's just a more sophisticated version of what your smartphone is today.
Okay,
I mean, the computer there's a lot more, but yeah, I mean, we even have the capacity to do this in banking right now with the technology we have right now, which would prevent all computer hacking in banking. I mean, I know several inventors of this technology. There's videos on YouTube about it. So it's entirely possible to have a complete secure financial system.
No, and I know it is, and hopefully we'll be seeing something like that implemented in the future. Hopefully sooner than later as well. Now, when I asked Tank about this in the interview that I did, which I'll have a link down below, I interviewed him this past Friday. I asked, who was it that chose you? Who told you, not necessarily the person that told you, but the theys? How were you chosen? His really unique answer, he said, short answer, God. And I kind of would like to get a little bit more of an explanation of that. Like, how did you get chosen for this? And how was it communicated to you?
Okay. So I started after the crash, right? After the market crash, I started getting into this whole other world of finance, which I was brought into on a trip to London in 2008. And I started learning that there are these, at the time they were presented to me as benevolent dragon families and benevolent Asians. We've all heard the stories, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I started reaching out to that whole community and trying to find someone that could help the United States. Because remember, I was very green and very American, meaning I had gone to Mexico a couple times, Canada, I really had Caribbean. I really was living a normal American person life. I didn't know anything about any of this stuff, right?
Okay.
So I started learning that, well, this is where the money is. And I'm thinking, well, the United States is crashing. We need help. I need to find someone that can give some gold assets to the United States and not to the Fed, to the Treasury. I'd already learned that part, started watching videos, just like everybody else, right? And so I found a lady who was a trustee at the time. Mm-hmm. And she was an Indonesian woman. Her last name is Nystrom. She was married to a Swedish man, and according to the people I was working with, she was the right one. Well, unbeknownst to me at the time, because this lady is they're all very evil and devious, I promise you they are. And this lady proved up, and then she agreed to go on a trip with me, and we were going to go to Switzerland because she told me that she could sign for some stuff at UBS and other places, right?
Okay.
So I took off 2010, went on a trip to Switzerland. Switzerland took me to Germany. Germany took me to back to Switzerland. Then from Germany, I went to France for a little while. I went from France back to Germany. Then eventually I landed in Russia because she was a, not Indonesian, I apologize, Thai citizen. And she had a Class C block on her passport. So the only place she could go to without a visa at that point where we could actually do this was Russia. So on Christmas Eve, I landed in Russia, 2010.
Fun.
Yeah. And I met her there, finally, face to face. And she was an interesting character. Unbeknownst to me, I was there with a Mossad agent and also a German SS officer. And that began the journey, right? And so then the Russian government came in and, and everybody was talking about, then all the Fed people came in, all the tier 1 banks were there, a bunch of generals showed up, and everybody was negotiating their piece of the pie if we were going to trip the system. Well, unbeknownst to me, here I am thinking I am the trustee and I'm protecting this old lady, right? Mm-hmm. Not I'm the trustee, I'm sorry. I'm just like an intermediary, I just wanted my commission and whatnot, and I was going to take off. That was it. And this lady was the one. And turns out I was the principal and she was the trustee. And so she needed me, and she knew it the whole time. And I didn't know it. I didn't know anything about it. So, you know, of course, we played also the Tomorrow game. They were investigating. I went through the Russian Inquisition, 3-4 days of constant questioning, check this, check that. And then it was time to do the switch or whatever, right? Flip the switch, retina scan, and all these fingerprints and all these things, right? And they flipped the switch, and apparently all the answers came back with, I'm the new trustee. So I remember this vividly. I was sitting in my hotel room in Moscow, and this is about a month or so into it. And he calls me up and he says, congratulations. This is a friend of mine that would have worked in and around the Department of Defense agencies. I call him my ghost friend, right? Because you never know where he's going to be. He goes in and out of everywhere. And I'm like, congratulations for what? And he goes, well, you're the new trustee. I'm like, what? Like, I didn't apply for the job. I didn't ask for the job. I wasn't trying to get a job. I was just wanting my little piece, and I thought I'd do something good for the country, and then I could get my lines of credit back, and then I could go back to my business like it was, right? That was my theory.
Okay.
And then in comes the Russian government, right? Says, well, you're the new trustee. Who are you? And how did you get this job? I said, well, I have no idea what you're talking about. I just got a call 10 minutes ago from my friend. Like, I don't know. And then my first thought was, wow, I can do so many great things for humanity. This world is in a mess, and wow, I can do some really great humanitarian projects and all these things. That was first thought.
For people who are unfamiliar with what the title trustee is, how would you define that in this particular instance?
Well, and I didn't even know this at the time, right? So everybody calls it the trust. So I assumed it was a trust, right? So if it's a trust, then it would be beneficiaries, right? There would be the beneficial owners of the trust. And then you would have a trustee, atypically a lawyer, or it could be anyone that you choose, really. But most people choose like a law firm or a CPA or something to be a trustee. Yeah. And so their job is just to manage the affairs in accordance with the rules and regs of the trust. And I assumed that's what I was doing at the time.
Okay. But
it was so... that began the deep dive down the rabbit hole for sure.
So what is a trustee now? Now that you've learned what it is, how would you define it as your position as trustee? Are you the one person who's able to access that trust like account, like whatever it is?
Well,
and I don't know if it's the quantum financial system, the quantum mapping system, how it intertwines. I did watch your video, which I'll have linked down below, for your explanation of the back end of the system, which I found very fascinating as well.
Well, quantum to me means, energy spanning time and space, right? That's what quantum physics. Mm-hmm. Right? And that's how the system functions. And it processes at a ridiculously high rate. There are some systems out there that are starting to come out and about that they're calling quantum, but in reality, they're not, in my opinion, because a true quantum system would be able to span time and space, and this does. It sends information all over the multiverse. It's highly interconnected, and some in the past, when it was under its old program, would have said it has the ability to be God or to be source.
The system itself that's ran by the AI? Well,
it was never run by an AI. Okay. So, all right, let me tell you what an AI system truly is, because everybody calls it this big scary thing on the internet, right? Your dryer is an AI system. If you have a smart dryer from within the last 10 years, typically it turn off when your clothes are dry, right?
Right.
And it's not always right, by the way, just so you know. Mine isn't. I don't know about yours.
It's a not so smart dryer sometimes.
Yeah, it's a not so smart dryer sometimes. But anyway, that's an AI system. So
Okay.
it's checking multiple points of the object that's inside it, and then makes a determination to turn off, right? Switch off. Your refrigerator, you know, if you have a modern refrigerator from the last few years, it's an AI system as well. Your dishwasher is an AI system. I mean, your phone is an AI system. It's tied to Fitbit, right? It's tied to a lot of different things. All these things are AI systems. So what an AI system actually does, it has the ability to take in information from multiple data points and then spit out information. That's what a mapping system is.
Okay.
Okay. Now you add a third factor in there where it's just a mathematical function. This will take you back to Algebra 1. A function is if X happens, do Y. So no different than you playing a game, a video game on your computer, right? If the player does X, do Y, right?
Right.
If you shoot the other character falls down. That's the same, that's what an AI system is. And so this system here just has the ability, because it does run on life force or source energy, right? The God particle. It has the ability to map things organic and non-organic. And it makes an assessment. So that's all a mapping system truly is. It's not anything crazy. It's just the energy source of this, right?
Okay.
So if you are powered, right, if you're not connected to Wi-Fi, you've got access to everything on your computer, right?
Right.
If you're connected to Wi-Fi, you now have a connection to other computers in your home. And you also have a connection to the World Wide Web. And that's how you and I are connecting today.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's because there's a network of data cables that were laid by the CIA they finished it in 1978, that laid the ports and the internet nodes to allow for the internet or telecommunications to circulate worldwide. Then we went to low Earth orbiting satellites, right, called LOEs, microwave meshing. We now have cell phones. You know, nobody really listens to regular radio anymore. Everybody's got Spotify. You know, all these things have changed, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're just now coming into tech that we've had as humanity over 1,000 years ago. I mean, this is not new.
Yeah.
Thousands of years ago, even.
When I look at history, that there's a lot to question as far as what we've been lied to and what has existed prior to where we are now. Because it does seem like there would be a lot more technologically advanced societies than we were being taught, and they're just kind of portraying them as Neanderthal cave people when there was a lot more going on. So I'm still trying to get some clarity on who were the days that decided that you were the DNA representation, the ambassador?
In my personal opinion, the computer is, well, it's that's not an opinion, that's fact. The computer has the multiverse's largest mapping system. And the one that is here on Earth is one of many that are interconnected,
Okay.
right? So it's mapping everything. Now, apparently, the computer system has an algorithm that once you hit the age of 40, right, now you can participate. So in the past, they would use, to override humanity's decisions, they would use like a 44%er and a, 50 something percenter, right? So 54% or 56% or whatever. It had to be above a certain percentage, and they would match them up together, and then there would be the person or the party who was running the back system at that time would make the ultimate decision. So it was 3 keys. That's why the Vatican has 3 keys. That's why everybody has three keys. Like, there's a lot of symbology around 3 keys, because it was 2 to get in, 3 to get out. So you still have to have the master switch, right? So the only party that could override that would be the collective consciousness of the entire planet Earth, at the time. So every human would have to make a decision, get up that day, 99 point something% minimum, and would have to make the decision that day that they wanted $100 to be transferred to every single person's account. Well, half the people aren't even going to believe you, right?
Right.
Okay, all you got to do is concentrate, and that $100 is going to come, I promise you. Right, so go sit down on a New York subway and tell that story. You know, you'll be locked up by dinner time, promise.
Easily.
So they knew that was never going to happen. In the dumbing down and the no education and the false information that kept going out was ensuring this would never, ever take place. And no one would even know it existed, let alone, you know, try to run it, right? So apparently on my 40th birthday is when the whole switch flipped. So that's when I officially became what they used to call trustee. Then in 2018, when the covenant expired, then I became guardian. So I'm no longer called trustee, I'm now guardian.
And would it be safe to say that you're the only person that's able to do anything with this entire system?
Well, to my knowledge, it does take a special skill set, and it would require my permission.
Okay. Okay. And for people, I want people to know that the idea with this particular conversation interview is to kind of get a little bit of a summary, to get a basic idea of things. And hopefully, you know, with Kim wanting to do this as well, we could do more follow-ups and kind of dig into some of these things a little bit more. So I do encourage people to comment down below, and I do encourage people to make sure that they're keeping an open mind and just be respectful. And, you know, if you got anything you want to share, definitely please share some information so that we could be productive in what hopefully will be our next conversation as well. Not that I'm trying to wrap this up. I just want to give people some clarity of where we're at, because if somebody's watching this and like, I'm lost. I'm just really lost. I'm lost too. And we're just trying to find the way. So,
well, let me help you. You've been talking to a lot of people that talk about QFS, right? Quantum Financial System.
I've heard it a whole lot, yeah, and I'm hearing it being used more in a in regard, like from what I'm understanding, if it is real, not talking about Russell J. Gould's thing, but the other quantum financial system would be more of a deep state cabal kind of thing that goes into the great reset that we're talking, that I've mentioned a lot in my videos.
Well, from my perspective, my first run-in with what they're calling a quantum financial system would have been a border hacking computer. That's what it's called. You can look up what that is if you don't know. It's called a border
hacking
computer.
Okay.
Yeah. And what it is when they connect a bunch of computers together, and then it gives them all that computing power together.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of like blockchain does.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Is it because that's. Yeah. For me, anytime I have heard anything about the quantum financial system, I've always told people it's just a fancy way of talking about blockchain technology. Whether or not it's blockchain or like a hash graph type technology, it's an open ledger type system.
It's just a method of computing. You know, you can buy a $200 laptop at Walmart, right? And it will work for most purposes, but you're not going to be able to store terabytes, you know, of data. It's probably going to have 2G, not 5G, and it's going to go process a little slower. You know, you're going to pull up your websites a little slower, but you could buy $1,000 laptop, right? Mm-hmm. And, you know, I mean, God, it's crystal clear. You've got touch screen, you get all these additional features, right?
Yeah.
So blockchain, before the advent of blockchain and Bitcoin, I was sitting in a hotel room in Switzerland, 2010 November, right, on my other trip, and someone handed me some funky-looking money. I was like, "Well, what's that?" And he said, "Well, that's the new Amero. This is going to be the currency of the North American continent." I'm like, "Okay." I said, "When's that going to happen?" And he said, "Next week." within the next 2 weeks, this will be circulating all over North America, and we're going to replace the Fed dollar. And that was in 2010. And then the next system was the Babylon system, right? The border computer Babylon system. We heard a lot about that. It's all over the internet from days of old. Now, does anybody know, do you know what happened in Babylon? Babylonian gods,
Yeah,
false idols,
I'm trying
power
to
goes
research
down.
I'm looking into the Anu, the Inky, Enlil, Marduk, all kinds of things. But it's not clear. We've got these tablets that people aren't even 100% sure that they know how to translate.
Well,
I'm sure there is somebody that knows, but as far as what we're being told is like the everyday person. I'm more familiar with Zachary Stitchin and his work, and then a few other people. I don't know beyond that, and I'm not even sure if what he's translated would actually be the correct translation or not, because there's no key that I'm aware of that I've been presented with. That's that logic again, that factual evidence.
Well, let me ask you a question, right? And I ask this of a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
They know, okay? They know that people are looking for answers. Why did this happen? Why did this happen to me? Why did the market crash? Now we're hearing about the deep state. Who is the deep state? They know people are going to go on the internet and look. So they're always going to present themselves as the good guys. Always. And so you're like, thank God, someone else is saving humanity. I'll just follow these people, right? As they save humanity. No one even knows the name of the person of the Earth Alliance, right? Or the Alliance or the saviors.
Right. No.
Stop looking for saviors. Stop. Myself included. Stop. You are the savior. Collectively, humanity together, globally, is the savior. That is the answer.
I'm glad you said that. I really am.
If you want information, look within. It's all there. Everything you need is there. Have you ever been crossing the street or about to leave your house and you get that weird niggling feeling like something's going to happen?
Yeah. Maybe I should stay home today.
Yeah, or maybe I should get a gallon of milk. Well, I don't know why I'm buying 2, right? But maybe I should get an extra one. And then it turns out, the store's out of milk for a few days or whatever.
Right.
The point is that is your inner self, your higher self telling you something. So the information that you get is directly from God, from source. That's, it's not a loud booming voice and a big guy in a chair and, chit-chatting with you. It's just your inner self. So when you want to know something, ask yourself. Because the internet's going to be tainted, because the bad guys know you're looking for a savior. Someone else to save you. Whether that's Russell J. Gould or that's the gurus or me or Tank or anybody, right?
No, I agree. Because I know who controls the internet. When most people are using Google to do a search, and they're obviously going to be in control of what comes up when you put in any particular words.
They're going to put all their CIA agents first.
Right. They're going to put a lot of misinformation. Yeah. And now I know that there's truth out there. It's just a matter of deciphering through that truth. And most people aren't in tune, even myself, aren't in tune with ourselves enough to be able to decipher and really be able to distinguish what 20% of the truth is versus the 80% of the lies.
But you can if you just look inside.
And I'm trying.
You'll know it feels weird. You'll know it feels strange. It doesn't feel right. It doesn't sound right. It sounds odd to you. Like you even have said, before we started recording today, you said to me, well, that just sounds crazy. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, when you put everything together, the aliens, extraterrestrial, the draconian stuff, and then you link into old ancient history with Babylon, the Anunnaki, the Marduk stuff, it does get a little bizarre.
Well, and okay, so let's just do it. Well, but like we can take certain people that, we've discussed before, right?
Okay.
And they're all about the Vatican. We're going to send letters to the Pope, and we're going to send letters to the president, and we're going to do all these things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now let's go down the rabbit hole for a while. Okay, Vatican's been in existence for, I don't know, a few hundred years, right?
Right.
About 500 years or more.
Like
Christianity, a couple thousand years. Okay, well, the Vatican in its current modern day form, I think the Holy See was formed in like 1500 something. I don't remember the exact date.
I don't know.
Doesn't matter.
I think you're about right.
Okay. Now, if you Google Vatican pedophiles, right?
Okay.
And you'll come up with all these people testifying that they were raped by priests. It's in the mainstream media. You can find information about the priests doing
it's pretty
pedophile things.
Pretty much common knowledge now.
Okay. So by deduction, we can say that millions of Catholics, right, and non-Catholics have been harmed by the Vatican. You can watch series like Da Vinci's Demons, which talks about what happened with the Medicis and the Catholic Church and the popes of the day. The information is out there. You just have to be able to put the pieces of the puzzle together.
Right.
Now, you have certain persons that are writing letters to the Pope, asking for help, give the money back. Now, that makes no sense to me. It's like saying, I gave my child to the pedophile to babysit, and now I'm mad that my child was molested.
Right.
Okay. Well, these people have been stealing. If you watch, it's Da Vinci's Demons. It's an old television show about 5-10 years ago, something like that. And it tells you that the Vatican stole everything from all of the kings and the lords in all of Europe. And then also in Latin America and many other places, right? It tells you. Now, I don't know about you, but if you go to the prison and you say to the thief, where did you put my jewels that you stole when you burglarized my home? And I would like it back, please. Yeah, he's going to look at me with that same look on that you have on your face right now.
Like, I'm really going to give you that information. You are absolutely crazy.
Right. I'll write you a nice letter, though, to prison, asking who has it. What'd you do with my money that you stole from my home? No, they're not going to answer. So you can put out on the internet that you're writing all this SQV and the law of 1666 and the crown and all of these things. Well, where are you going?
You're going to you're going to the people who took it from you, asking for what they took back in
a polite letter with a nice stamp. No one cares.
Yeah.
Unless you showed up there with an entire army, and even then they can't tell you because they give it to their people they worship, right?
Yeah, now if we're speaking about AVR, I did talk to her about this and asked her about the judge stuff and asked her about claiming to be an attorney for the Pope because I'm not.
Well, and that's something to be proud of. You're an attorney for some pedophiles.
Yeah, I don't like it. She gave her explanation for it, but I am definitely not a fan of the Vatican, Vatican City, City of London. Even though I thought it was ironic. I've got a London coffee cup, but City of London and District of Columbia. Which, speaking of that too,
I can answer that question.
Yeah, Tank said that you had removed the sovereign status from that, and that kind of made me say, well, how does that happen? Does the rest of the world recognize it? Do they recognize it? Because it's like Russell J. Gould talking about the government being bankrupt and not being a legitimate government, but yet it seems to be operating. Whether or not it's legitimate or not, it seems to be functioning. Sure. You see, for most people, they think everything's just good because.
Well, it's all about.
I know this is all over the place, and I'm trying to keep it. But it's
well, I know. I've got a lot of answers to your questions. Okay. So we had United States Inc., right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So if you don't believe the conspiracy theorists and whatnot, whatever you want to call them on the internet, right? You would say the Pledge of Allegiance as a kid in school before they took it out.
Right.
Right. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
Under God.
Under God.
Which they like to take out now.
Yeah.
And is it indivisible or in the invisible?
Indivisible,
Right.
right? Now, that tells you right there that the Republic and the United States are not the same thing. That the United States is standing, because when you stand for someone, you're standing for something else, right? You stand up for something else.
So the United States Incorporated is standing up for the Republic of the United States, which is supposed to be our de jure government, which is taken over. And that's where the Act of 1871 comes into play, the District of Columbia, right prior to that, Abraham Lincoln.
Well, I'll tell you the secret, okay? Every treaty becomes a bond. It is called an instrument, right? Mm-hmm. Both are called instruments. Every single treaty ever signed becomes a cashable instrument. It was deposited into the backside financial system, and then money would come out to fund said agreement, whatever it was. The Treaty of Versailles, also a bond and an instrument. Now, the reason why these things are thousands of pages long or hundreds of pages long, right, is because no head of state ever reads all that. They have people for that. And even those people go for the Cliff Notes. Right. There's always a little clause in there somewhere that assigns everything, your assets, you know, so your bond becomes an asset. Then we went to completely off the gold standard, right? So no assets were required anymore because nobody had anything left to give. So now you just have debt. Then we have derivatives and we have all kinds of things. But every treaty is an instrument.
Okay.
Every corporation is an instrument.
And we as persons, we are instruments. All of our birth certificates, live birth records, our social security numbers, bank account numbers are all ultimately QSIP numbers, from what I understand.
Yes, there you can look this up on the internet. It's called the ANNA system, or the Association of Numerical Numbering Agency is what it's called.
Okay.
And what that does is it actually is a control system, believe it or not. Its sister system, it's in Belgium, and the sister system to that is the XN system. One controls all the taxes, the other one controls all of the registrations. So once you understand the control system, now the AB Corp, which you can also look up, was the one that issued the birth certificates, still does to this day. They print all the birth certificates, they give you a little number in the corner, and you know, you get your certificate of live birth and so on and so forth, right? Mm-hmm. Well, that is assigned over to the ANNA system, and you are registered now, okay? Everything you do, every company you own, every car you own, every home you own, everything becomes registered. Now, as if you are a good little employee of the system, is what they call it, you'll be allowed to succeed. If you're not a good little employee of the system, they will take everything away from you. So if you're not compliant to the program and be good little livestock and cattle, then you would be blackballed in that system. When they say you're blacklisted, that's where you go. Now that system hasn't been functioning for about 1.5 years now, but that's what it was designed to do. So Treasury of USA has nothing, is Black Sun run, first of all, Order of the Black Sun, right? Okay. Jesuits are often found there, and all the other little arms and fingers. So the money would come out to Treasury of USA. And Treasury of USA would have been responsible for funding the Ways and Means Committee in the United States. Did you know we have a Ways and Means Committee? Just like UK? You can look it up online, the Ways and Means Committee in the US. Okay. And it will tell you everybody that serves on there. They're the ones that handle socio-humanitarian programs of the American government, such as Social Security, Department of Education, Human Health Services, and a number of these other divisions that you wouldn't be aware of. The Ways and Means Committee reports directly to the Crown of England, which is Crown Corporation, which is Rothschild.
City of London.
City of London, right. Now, City of London was just a deed that was transferred over to the trust. City of Tel Aviv is the same. City of Moscow, Beijing, Washington, D.C., and several other capital cities around the world.
So
and the reason...
they all have the same status? I was kind of thinking that District of Columbia, London, and Vatican were kind of special and unique in and of themselves. Okay.
They all have the same status. It's meant to control governments and heads of state. Now, the executive branch of the United States was signed over to the order, right? Let's call them the order, under the European Coal and Steel Community Agreement. It's a little clause in there. Remember I told you it's treaty. So all treaties are bonds. Bonds all get deposited into the backside system so that the papers can come out to fund the treaty.
I don't know if you can hear this, but and maybe it's in the recording where somebody else can hear this, but something just happened to your voice where it got a little gargly. It's as if there's like some sort of interference, which wouldn't surprise me, but there was a little internet issue, which I understood, but it's something's like kind of like changing your voice almost. It's weird.
I'm talking normal.
Well, now it's back. But there was whenever I'm done, I'll go back and listen to this part and see how it comes out so that you can hear it. But it just had like a digital kind of gargle sound over your voice. It was weird.
It might be my Wi-Fi.
It may be, or sometimes I feel like people are trying to get into these programs. I don't know if I'm just being paranoid or because some of the people I talk to, it wouldn't surprise me if I'm being monitored.
Well, isn't it funny? Once I talk about the executive branch, then everything goes gargly.
That's why I was pointing it out. I'm not trying to be silly. I'm not trying to like fear porn.
I'm probably being monitored right now, or everything to do with the executive branch is being monitored because the elections are so screwed up.
That would make sense.
Yeah,
I'm not trying to like make something out of nothing and reverse. I just was asking if you had heard it.
No.
And if when I'm done with this, I'll point it out. And so if you're listening to this when I'm done editing, you hear that part, please, let me know below. I just thought it was weird. Sorry.
Sorry.
I mean, I've had my internet get turned off. I've had other people's internet get turned off. I've had weird things happen using Zoom and Skype, and it doesn't matter what service I use. There's always some sort of issue.
Me too.
So I just wanted to make sure. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, that's okay. I gave up on the whole, communication. Oh, sign up for this app. It's so secure. Sign up for that
There's
app.
no such thing.
Secure.
I mean, now I know some people that are in the blockchain space, great coders, great people that are very much the ideals of an anarchist voluntarist who do not comply with governments and are creating ways for like encrypted ways of being able to communicate. But then you've got to think about all the backdoors on the computer programs and the hardware and not only in the computers, but in your phone. So there's all these other ways of being able to listen in and be able to break through without you even knowing. Even your, like my smart TV, which is off right now, it's probably, the microphone is still probably enabled.
Absolutely.
Listen, so that when I do watch something on YouTube, I don't know what ad to suggest to me.
Yeah, actually, what's funny is that it's used for a lot more than that, right?
I know, but
that's
a really easy example to point out to people.
But it's become so obvious this past year. I was having a conversation with my daughter about buying milk or something. Hey, if you go to the store, buy some milk, right? And all of a sudden I got 20 ads in my Yahoo mail and my, on YouTube and whatever about milk. Buy this kind of milk, almond milk, 2% milk. Oh, it's on sale, at this store down the street.
It's crazy. People don't realize the power of what your data it can, how suggestive it can be, not just for like marketing and advertising, but then if they can do that with the marketing and advertising and be able to hit you the right way, imagine other things, that we're not really paying attention to. It's a scary world that we're in. And that's why I'm been doing these kind of interviews, trying to talk to people like yourself and others who are trying to help inspire and bring about change and actually flip the script and make an even playing field for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, obviously we can see all the problems we've had in this world. A lot had to do with money, a lot had to do with religion, and a lot had to do with power and control. And it's really sickening. And we keep talking about this age of Aquarius and going into an age of enlightenment. And as an anarchist, which, not someone like Antifa, someone who believes that I don't have a master or a ruler on this planet. I don't have a monarch or an oligarchy that controls me.
Just source.
So therefore, and that would make me an anarchist. So, but as such, I don't think that the world right now is ready to live under the idea of the golden rule, treating people how we want to be treated. But we definitely need to evolve and start getting to that point and try to break to an area where we can find how we start becoming self-governing and how we start becoming more accountable for our actions in everything that we do. Because I think that if people are more accountable, instead of this limited liability society that we live in, people would be a little bit more responsible about the things that they do in this world.
Well, I know. And this goes down to, like even our next generation, right? Likes on Snapchat, or, so-and-so's insulting so-and-so on Snapchat, or, or some other form, Twitter or whatever else, right? And then it makes us feel bad, right? I mean, I personally don't care, but some people care.
It does.
They care when they're being insulted, and then there's younger people committing suicide over their bullying, cyberbullying.
Yeah.
Right.
It's becoming a very big thing.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm cyberbullied every day, right? I mean, you see that. And I'm actually okay with that, and I enjoy it. And I'll tell you why. Because I've learned, I like I told you, I read things very differently than most people read things. And every time there's a hacking that fails, Anna von Reitz is on it the next day. On it. I mean, she's got a hater article for me the next day of epic proportions, right? The RV people are going crazy. I'm getting text messages from Jesuits and all these people yelling and screaming. And, the more exposing I do, the more angry they get. Don't say the Vatican is bad. I'm like, well, okay, I won't say the Vatican is bad. But then you just Google Vatican pedophiles, and there'll be 1,000, millions and millions of people. And I don't know, maybe you're into that sort of thing. As far as being an anarchist, I call it being the divergent ones, right? We know something's wrong.
Yeah.
And I don't want someone to tell me. I mean, I'm totally on the same program, right? I wear what I want to wear. I don't care what label it has on it. I have a phone that I want to have. I don't care if it's the iPhone or the latest and greatest, whatever, because I know it's a program.
Right.
It is all a program.
I have, since this year started, this is actually probably the most I've even said about anarchy, unless I'm in a conversation specifically about it. I have kind of shed that label because of the way that the socially accepted norm definition of what anarchy has become versus the etymology. I know what it means, but if I was to say it, someone's going to go, you're part of Antifa. They're not even going to listen to the logic behind what I have to say. So that's normally a fight that I generally won't even try to even go down anymore. Periodically, it's important to bring up. I do like the term voluntarist, which is just basically everything that we do should be on a voluntary basis. Nothing should be forced or coerced upon another person, which is how our governments work. They work in coercion. They work in forcing people.
This is how labels work.
Yeah.
In general.
Yeah, but
labels are used to separate, divide, and classify people. So you're right. By you saying this is who I am, right? The government now puts you on a watch list, and you are now separated into a category full of, remember the skinheads in the 90s and the whole deal, and now we've got Antifa. Yeah. Anti-fascism is exactly the opposite of what they're doing right now. It has nothing to do with color of skin whatsoever. Yeah. And it's evolved into this whole thing where anti-fascism, right, if you look up the term, what it means, has nothing to do with what these people are doing. Nothing. At all whatsoever. It's all about equality.
Yeah, right? I mean, I get what you're saying, and it is unfortunate though with how we've been conditioned as human beings or as individuals to break ourselves into categories, because we are tribal in some way. We group ourselves with like-minded people.
We are flock animals.
It's one of those odd things. I started watching that television show, The 100, and it kind of has those kind of aspects where people, even though you've got a potential idea of complete freedom, you still have people breaking up into the little groups and always fighting amongst themselves.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be nice to get to that point where we can evolve. How did you remove this sovereign status to go back to the Vatican City, London, DC thing? And what does that mean exactly?
There's a hierarchy in the legal system on this planet, okay? There are laws and rules for them, laws and rules for the people above them, and then laws for us. They're not the same.
Okay.
Okay. The trust, as we call it, is actually called unknown country or no name country. Now, there's a reason for that. Very smart people, right? Because in all the agreements in the UN and all the things that they've done and all of the bonds by treaty they've collected, right? Put it all into the same place. Who's going to sue you? Hi, I'm going to take no name country to court.
Right.
Well, who is it? No name. What do you mean no name? You know, where's your flag? Where's your whatever? I mean, where do they live? I mean, what piece of land? Can you point them out? Who's the president of no name unknown country? You know?
Right.
Okay. So the Holy See is a sub-sovereign. So the master sovereign holder of all sovereign agreements and treaties and bonds and everything, over time, everything was deposited into the trust so the greedy little people could get their money, right?
Right.
All the assets go in there, everything got assigned into the same place over time. That's why my predecessor, who was only in it to collect all the real assets of Earth, right? The people that he called livestock, and all of the in-ground assets, rare earth minerals, and all the other things that he had, then he just cut them off because he didn't need them anymore. That's it.
So by changing the sovereign status would bring them to a more on our level of law, or does it put everybody on the same?
Well, they cannot. In the system, what happens is, even though they may still be continuing like they're a sovereign, right? And that's okay, right? So what happens is that when they tried to do the latest and greatest treaty, so they signed a treaty with all these different countries where they pledged their in-ground assets to the Vatican in order for the Great Reset to happen.
Okay.
That was 2 weeks ago.
That was 2 weeks ago.
Yes. Because on October 15th is when I had to remove it. Had to happen. So maybe it's about 3 weeks ago now.
Okay.
So, I mean, they took time doing this and all of these things, and they were all promised a cut in the new currency, which would be a one global currency. Let's call it Vatican dollars. I don't know what they were calling
it. That's what they were calling it?
Yeah, well, it rejected. Number one, they don't have sovereignty, so they don't have the right to sign a treaty. A treaty is something that is signed between two sovereign entities, right?
Okay.
And so they didn't have the right to sign a treaty. Number two, those assets were already pledged. You can't pledge your car twice for a loan.
Right.
You're still looking for papers, right? No, so you issue new papers. Okay, well, how does that solve our problem? We go from using green dollars, right? Looking currency in America, to using yellow ones. Does that take away the debt? Does that solve the problem? And do you think that these people are really going to let a gold standard happen? And I'll tell you why.
I mean, they can't because their debt standards, sound money doesn't allow for them to control. They can't do the inflation. They can't. It's not good for them. The debt-based society allowing for debt is what keeps them in power. It's what keeps us as economic slaves.
True, but also it's the great equalizer.
As far as
Think about it.
flipping the script on them and equalizing it for everybody else, is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, if you were Dr. Evil and you wanted to control the whole world, you wanted to be the king of the world, right? That's what these people want, always power and control. And how do you control the fact that gold is in every country, in the ground, everywhere? And you already pledged it to get paper before, and you owe money now because they were just trustees, right? For the beneficiaries, which is every human walking planet Earth. And there were others involved too. You know, there's other agreements and stuff in place. But the point is, as far as the money part goes, that is their job was only to be the manager, right?
Okay.
To humanity got to a point where it could make its own decisions. That's it. So the fact that you took all that money out, gave none of it to humanity, which you did, right? Which they did, the deep state. And then how do you expect to keep your job? Who's going to rehire you? If there was an actual true election, which is what they would need to succeed, not implied consent, you would have to agree, every human walking planet Earth would have to agree that the Pope or whoever, right, at this latest incident, should be the king of the world. I guarantee you it will never happen.
No,
99,
not the Vatican, no, not the Pope.
99.9% of humanity would have to all vote knowingly, with knowledge of what they were speaking of, to agree that the Pope should not be should be the king of the world, or the Black Pope, or the Black Sun, or some guy you don't even know his name or her name, or you ever heard of him before, in order to override me.
Now, you mentioned your predecessor. Would that be M?
Yeah.
Would this be Marduk? Would this be the Marduk that people have heard about in history that goes back to Sumeria and Babylon?
Yep.
Like the grandson of Anu?
Yep.
That's bizarre. So this is somebody you had regular contact with at one point?
Every day.
Where did this
my highest,
I know that
30,000 minutes in 1 month.
Would this be what people would consider an Anunnaki?
Well, think about what you just said. So you said his grandfather was Anu.
Right. And I know that's where the name derives from, was from Anu.
If you're from America, they call you an American. If you're from Russia, they call you a Russian, right?
So is Anu a planet?
Anu, Anunnaki. That means you're a citizen of Anu land.
Okay.
Right?
Where do they come from?
The Draconian star system. You can look it up. It's a star.
And how did this Marduk die?
He was murdered.
How do you murder an Anunnaki? a Marduk? Do they
Everything
bleed like?
Okay. Everything dies.
So I mean, because this is what people in ancient history would have considered to be gods.
Well, see, that's the problem, and that's where people like yourself come in, right? I don't worship anything. If it bleeds and it dies, as far as I'm concerned, you're just like me.
What is your relationship with Source?
100% the big boss.
Do you have direct communication with Source?
Everybody does.
You're right. I mean, you're right. I mean, but do you have a conversation where
do I go call the Pope and ask to call first? Or do I go to a church, or do I do whatever? No, I don't. I just dial direct.
Do you worship the Source, or do you? What is your? I mean, I guess that's what I meant with your relationship. Like, is Source a deity? It's just Source is just Source. Source is the all. It's one of those unanswered questions that I'm just not sure about, that everybody wants to know the answer to. What is Source?
Okay.
You can actually
no. When you get time, okay, so if you're watching this, when you're done watching this, or when you have time, right? I want you to walk outside, and I want you to look up, not at the sun, but look up into the air. And the first thing you'll notice is you'll see these little things moving around, and they almost look like floaties in your eye, you know, kind of thing.
Yeah.
You ever seen that? Like, you can see it in it everywhere. It's everywhere. It's just easiest when you're first starting to see it outside. So go outside and you look around, and you'll start to see these little floating things in the sky.
It's like
right?
snow on TV almost.
Kinda,
Slightly.
kinda.
Yeah.
And then if you focus in, it's almost going to feel like you're going cross-eyed to just one of those particles, and you'll notice it's giant sparks. They're all sparks moving in unison. That same spark exists within you. It's your energy. That's your life, right? That same spark exists in everything that's organic in the multiverse. It's like we're like a network computer, right? Connecting to the mainframe, which is a giant concentration of that light. So if you want to connect in the network, right? If you're in an office and you want to connect to Bill down the hall or on the 4th floor, you just type in the coordinates, right? How to reach Bill. And there's Bill on your messenger, right?
Right.
Because you're connected to the same system.
So the idea that we are all a part of the whole and
Yep.
an emanation of like a piece of the personality of Source, and together we all make up Source. Would that be your perspective?
I would say every organic thing in the multiverse is connected directly and is a part of Source. Like I said, a visualized network computer, right? You got the mainframe down in the basement, but there's thousands of workers in the building, and they're all connected by this box. You just have to be connected from what is actually inside you. And you can see it if you walk outside. Then try to move it. Seriously, you're connected to it, right? Then try to move those particles.
Matrix Neo, move the spoon kind of stuff now.
No, just go do it.
Okay. I will.
Honestly.
I will.
Next conversation.
Okay.
And everybody who's watching this, go do it, because you'll notice it is connected to you. It's almost like it reads your mind. If you're thinking about moving it, it'll move.
Okay. I mean, I've been paying a lot of attention to the sky. I talk a lot to the sky. I'm talking to, who I'm thinking is Source I'm trying to communicate with. And there's some really interesting things that are happening in space. You mentioned last night on the Life Force call, it was so long, my phone ended up dying.
Sorry.
I couldn't watch the whole entire thing. You had mentioned something about December 21st and nothing special happening. It really does seem like a really interesting alignment that's going on right now, in where you're looking at Saturn, Pluto, and Jupiter all lined up right now, all kind of hugging each other right under Aquarius. Other planets are lining up. This energy is not going to affect us in any way.
What I meant by that, okay, the only thing that we need to concern ourselves with is that connection to Source, right?
Okay.
Or what we call the central sun of the multiverse. So it's a never-ending energy source, constantly creating.
I like that.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's what Source is. And you can call it God, or you can call it whatever you feel like you want to call it, but it is what it is. I mean, you can bask in it, you can go there, you can bathe in it, you can ask questions and you'll get answers because it responds to you. It's like the world's, how do you say, the multiverse's mapping system. It knows everything.
That's beautiful.
Once you get in there, you get connected. But remember, it's like the World Wide Web, right? The answers to all through the ages, all through time and space, past, present, future. And, you ask what happened. I want to know what happened on this day, or what's going to happen on this day. Now, the more people that are involved, and the more life forms that are involved in whatever process it is. So planets are alive, right? It's a life form. It's an organic life form. It's a creation. It's part of creation. So how does these planets all coming together affect me as a person? Well, those are just a few life forms, right? We've got 8 billion or so humans walking the planet on any given day, and we've got all these plants, and we've got all these trees. We've got, I mean, think about all the organic things in this world, right?
Yeah.
So how are 3 other organic things going to affect billions of organic things? And why would that be the case?
That makes sense. I mean, I'm not an astrologer, an astronomer, or anything to that effect. I've just been listening to other people, trying to be open-minded, and listen to a lot of different ideas of what people are speculating can happen, because I've been hearing things about solar flashes, EMPs, people being transferred to a new Earth, a 5D Earth. I mean, I've been hearing some wild things. This year has just been like the year of the most bizarre, wild, just even taking out all the other stuff, the pandemic, the economic stuff, the cultural stuff. It's a very bizarre year. Since we're going to do a follow-up, I've got just 2 last questions for this, just because I think this is a lot for people to ingest that are unfamiliar, and then it gives us a place to continue on. But when it comes to this financial system, what is stopping you from releasing SID funds and changing the paradigm, flipping the script, giving us a new system, a parallel system for financial reasons, so that somebody who has $500 in the bank today is going to have $500 of whatever tomorrow, and so that there's no economic turmoil? What's really preventing it from happening overall? And are you the only person that, I hate the word person, are you the only individual that can do this?
Well, right now, yes. But the reason for that is because, number one, any of you, right, watching this, including yourself, can design a completely new banking system. And if it sounds good, looks good, secure, let's do it.
So you're looking for somebody who has a tool to offer?
No, I have tools to offer too.
Okay.
Right? So I've done a lot of work in this instance. But what I'm saying is that this is the people's system. Okay. So all I'm doing is I'm sitting on it right now so they don't get it back.
Okay.
We've had a long time of those people, and now it's our time. So I've learned how to use it. I'm not a computer programmer in any way, shape, or form until the last 4 years. I had to learn. And it's not a system like your laptop. It's totally different. I mean, it operates and functions in a completely different manner on energy and frequencies and whatnot, right? So what I'm saying is that, and that's the purpose of Life Force, right? So I should be asking you, why aren't you creating a new banking system the way you want it?
Right.
Taking out all the points of control.
That is something I have thought about. From my own personal perspective, it would have to be a think tank with lots of people, because this can't be about an I at all. There can't be an I in this. It has to be a team effort, and no one person can take credit for something like this. And one person is going to end up having some sort of backdoor loophole. Then you got to audit and check the code. And I even asked Tank about, how you were faring with the coding element, because I knew you didn't come from a coding background. So I'm impressed with how you've handled all this. The last question I want to ask, and I don't want you to take any offense to this. This is a question that a lot of people have been asking. If you're in charge of the SID system, a lot of people are asking why you and Life Force are asking for donations and selling t-shirts. I'm a capitalist, and I understand. I just would like for you to kind of explain that for the majority of people, to kind of lay this to rest, because a lot of people just keep bringing it up.
Okay. Well, here's the situation. Okay. You've got a, as you saw in the video, right? And you could put a link if they don't
I will.
understand, right? There's a whole network of computers that was created predominantly by agencies worldwide. It's been in existence for a long time. It's like Swiss cheese. The banking system is like Swiss cheese. You can go on the internet and type banks hacked, and every day there'll be someone on there.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's not designed to be secure. It's designed to have backdoors so people can siphon money out of it. I mean, that's what they don't care about us, remember? So I have to fight those people. I had to figure out how to use it. It didn't come with a handbook. No one wanted me to figure it out. So I can get money out of the back system. I've done it hundreds of times. And each time I get a little further and a little closer to the end user.
Okay.
So in my last attempts, I got stuck at the back office, right? The wire room where the CIA works. And just in case you didn't know, globally. If you are a bank, it doesn't matter if you're in Moscow or you're in China or you're anywhere in the world, African bank number, whatever, it's all run by the CIA. So I'm fighting the people. I have to figure out how to do it electronically without alerting a person that works there. Because if I do, they're going to automatically block me. So that's why I'm having such an issue. So I'm doing everything I can every day, right, in my spare time to make that happen. Now, the reason why, because Tank never asked for donations in years. I mean, he got on there every night sometimes, and he would record for 2-3 hours, right?
Yeah, he's a good dude.
And never asked for a dime from anyone. Now, because of all the fanfare on the internet, the guy can't get a job. He's got 3 kids. I don't know if you know that.
I know he's got a couple. He told me about something to do with some comic books and his son, or sons.
Yeah, so he, you know, I mean, you don't know what they do to these people that are the divergents, right? The ones who go against the system. And me, I'm constantly hunted. I mean, I've done all kinds of, you know, jobs and whatnot for cash, and you know, from painting houses and doing people's paperwork and this and that, and whatever I could do to make money to survive. I too have a child, right?
Yeah.
So the donations aren't really about that, right? We're doing our job. And we were told to build a news channel. Okay. We can't be CNN, you know, off of some donations from some very generous people, but we're building, the app is finished. Matter of fact, we just launched on the web today. The news is in there. There's all kinds of exclusive interviews in there. Plus, we have added something called United Network Plus, which gives you 13,000 channels worldwide in every language in the world, plus all your favorites, all the NFL packages, sports packages, HBO Cinemax, Netflix movies are in there. You've got 30,000 movies on demand and 55,000 series around the world in many languages.
Very cool. So what is do you know offhand what the URL is for the news website? If not,
United Network .solutions is what I think we decided on. So
okay, I'll make sure
we were using it on the test. Yeah, and
I'll have it linked down below. And I mean, I appreciate you being transparent with all the questions, and especially the last one.
Yeah, and so I mean, yeah, the app itself cost us. Once you have to be on Google, Apple, web, and Mac, right? Windows, Mac, Roku. A lot of people have Roku, Fire Stick, and you know the smart TVs. So by the time it's all said and done, it's about costs us about $3,000 a month to put that out there, and then plus the Network Plus is also an additional cost, and then of course branding the app. We actually did a lot of the work ourselves. A new thing we learned. Okay. We also learned how to use recording studios and cameras and things. And I mean, remember, I never even did a YouTube video.
I was just so, when I started my channel, I never did anything like this. And when I started like almost 2.5 years ago, going on 3 years ago, I would start out with my laptop. I was using the computer on my laptop, the microphone on my laptop. Then I upgraded to better camera, better computer, upgrade lights, learn how to do video editing, learn how to do mastering. It's because it's been a really interesting journey. And like you, when you're going down these paths, people don't realize. Some people like even think me with my YouTube channel. I just crossed over 10,000 subscribers. I'm very much censored, very much shadow banned. I don't make a lot of money doing this. I make maybe $100 a month from YouTube if I'm lucky. And I've got a couple sponsors, which I'm thankful for. But if I had to live specifically purely on just this, I wouldn't be getting by. So,
Yeah.
you know, it's like people have to realize the sacrifices that people are making when they're doing this. Even someone like Russell J. Gould, who I don't agree with a lot of the things he says, because of the things he's done, and maybe even changing his status to possibly being a sovereign. I don't know if that's true, but he can't work either. So he's in those situations. So it kind of, I understand where somebody would need the support from their community that respects what they're doing, especially when you're not charging for your work.
Well, we have something very interesting. So our app does have a subscription, and there's 2 levels, right? You can get it with or without United Network Plus. It's very reasonably priced.
Okay.
However, we also have a section coming out called Banned. So, yeah, well, you know how it's called Banned, like banned from YouTube, banned from,
oh, BANNED. Okay.
Right,
okay.
where you can have and upload your own videos and do your own shows on there, right?
Okay.
Now, Spotify, what Spotify does is they actually pay their artists off a pool, right? They're a public company, so of course the stockholders, so they form a pool of like $100 million or something like that, right? Per month, and then the artists all get to split that pot. Meanwhile, they're making $1.5 billion.
Right.
So the idea behind United Network is not just news, it's uniting people from around the world. So you're the news, right?
Awesome.
You do your reports about what's going on in your community, in your country, in the world, and you tell it from your side and your perspective, right? So that's part of it. And we have a youth section as well, where we're having kids from all over the world tell their stories, and it's really great, right?
That's cool.
But we also have a band section where you can basically have your own channel on the app, and you can participate in revenue share.
Oh, cool. Very cool.
So,
I got some things I can run over you guys too, that are revenue type shares and type ways for communities and content creators to be able to benefit. So it's not just benefiting the content creators, it actually benefits the community as well. So
sure.
I have to turn you on to some things that are being built as well.
Yeah, and Charlie Ward just went off YouTube, right? And now he's charging memberships and subscriptions. But not only do you get your stuff, say, right? You get our stuff too, and everyone else like you that's on there. Plus, you're also getting basically better than cable included.
That's awesome.
Right? So you've got, you know, I mean, it's a complete entertainment system, alternative and otherwise.
Well, I definitely have to check it out, and I will have links down below so people can check it out as well. And I know I'm going to be doing a follow-up with Tank as well, so maybe we can cover some of that when we do another conversation. But before we wrap up today, which I honestly appreciate your time, appreciate your transparency, did you have any final thoughts or anything that you wanted to leave people with before we wrap up this video?
You know, based on what we talked about today, I would just have people look inside themselves. What truly needs to be done? Right? And what does freedom mean to you? I mean, what you're fighting the court that's owned by them in their court about the law? I mean, you know, they're not going to change it for you. This is all deep state created structure for us. So create your whole new world. You know, you have assemblies. Why are you fighting the government? Make your own assembly, assemble yourself, decide what your rules are going to be. Right? And if the majority of people vote for it, then you can drop it right on the president's desk. And it's just like Congress and the House doing it. You can. It's actually in the laws that you can do this. They just bank on the fact that people will not unite together to make a decision.
I know.
Let's prove them wrong.
I love it. I love it. And I the most simplest thing that I can tell people when everybody can get it and find that thing to commonly unite over, when enough people take a stand, nothing can stand against the people. And that's the beauty of it all. We just got to get past all this division, all these things that are separating us, and come together and find a way. I mean, even with the last thing I'll say, I have tried talking to people like Audubon Rice, Russell J. Gould, Carl Lentz, David Straits, and some of these other people that are in this sovereign freedom type movement, and try to find how can we all work together? Where can we unite? And unfortunately, a lot of people's egos are not allowing them to, because they feel like their path is the only path. And I feel like when you're trying to tell somebody we want to be free, but there's only one way to freedom.
Yeah, so you're going to get a new controller.
That's just hypocritical. How can there be one way to the end result? There's got to be several different paths to get to the same place.
And if it was the right way, how long have these people been talking?
Right.
They're all saying the same thing in one way or another. You had Dr. Naidoo that was popular a few years ago, and it's talking about the same stuff. Everybody's talking about being sovereign. It's like the Tomorrow Game,
switching up the character.
Yeah, but then they have to say controlling, right? There was a falling out with myself and another alternative media person, and they were like, well, you're stealing all my viewers. I'm like, no, I'm not telling people not to listen to you. I'm not mentioning your name at all. I'm like, how am I stealing? And how can you steal a person? Grand larceny of a human? I mean, I don't think so. The point is we are all supposed to come together. We're supposed to work together. And sometimes if you say something repeatedly so long, you believe it, right? And that you believe so strongly it's the only way. And only by being open-minded will you start taking a look at other ways. Because if I was sitting at the same bus stop for 20 years and the bus hasn't come in 20 years, I'm going to go get the new bus schedule. I'm going to find out where the next bus is, right? I need to go to work, right?
Yeah.
But why do I go there every day and sit like this? And that's what humanity is doing, listening to these people. You got to get up and you got to take action yourself and say, okay, they kept telling me that the bus is coming here, right? At this corner, and I've been sitting here now for 20 years waiting. And you still haven't gone to work, and you haven't applied for a job, or wherever it was you're going, to the grocery store, in 20 years.
Right.
Take some initiative, go get the bus schedule, figure out where the bus really is going to be, right? For yourself. And then if you're successful, when you're successful, you teach others, hey, look what I did. That's what a leader is.
I love it. I love it. I'm really looking forward to our next conversation. If you could bear with me 1 second, I'm going to wrap things up on this end and stop recording and holler at you for one moment. So ladies and gentlemen, going to have links down below for everything we talked about on today's show. I do appreciate you tuning in. If this is your first time ever watching any of my videos, I do encourage you to explore my channel. Make sure you're subscribed, smash that like button, hit that notification bell so you can stay up to date with my videos as they come out. And as always, I encourage you to be the change by practicing change.